the bottom line is the lessons that I learned from dispoing in that time period, and then the shift that happened when it was like a year turnaround when all of this shifted back to like acquisitions marketing. And the one thing that I learned is that this stuff evolves all the time, and it's a living, breathing organism. Real estate's never going to stay the same. Marketing will never stay the same. It will always be changing.
Josh, thank you for joining me for our Thought Leader Spotlight series. I'm your host, Matt Camp, head of partnerships for DealMachine. And on these, we really like to put a spotlight on industry experts like yourself and, learn from you and hear about your inspiring stories and have our audience get out there and take action. So really excited to welcome on Josh Culler today. Quick background on you. I know you've been in the real estate investing industry since 2013. You've been a part of hundreds of deals as a marketing director. So excited to hear about your marketing background and marketing tips for our real estate investors. You're the owner of Culler Media and then REI.video, which I know you do on the Culler Media side, more like white glove approach to content production, copywriting, distribution, all of that. And then your podcast as well. You've got two of those going on, the Content Marketing Playbook and REI Marketing Weekly. So you're a busy guy. I appreciate your time today, man.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good to finally hop on here with you. We've been talking about this for a little while, so now we get to crush it and make it happen. We're going to make the best of it.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, I know I read the bio there, but can you maybe tell me a little bit more about your background, your journey within real estate investing? And I'm excited to dig in there.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a long story short, typically like what I like to do is just give like a super high level. And if you want to learn more about me, go follow me on social media and, YouTube and all that stuff. So you can learn a whole lot more about me there. So I've been in the real estate investing industry since I was 19 years old, way back in the day. So when I first started into real estate investing, I was actually hired by a guy, a guy named Gary Harper, who was partners with a couple other guys in the Chicagoland area, and we were all wholesaling. And so he brought me on to help him wholesale. And at that time, we were wholesaling in Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, and Ohio. And so Gary and I were kind of in charge of the wholesaling side of it within Michigan and Ohio. And we realized we hated real estate. We did not like to go visit these properties, real estate as in like go like walk through properties and go. And you have to understand, back when I got into it, we were doing more reverse wholesaling than anything. This whole acquisitions marketing and motivated sellers marketing, sending out text blasts and cold calls, voicemails and stuff like that. We never did any of that. You could snap your fingers, get a deal from HUD, auction, MLS, and then you just reverse wholesale it to an end buyer. So almost all the marketing we did was dispositions marketing. Like that was pretty much all it was. Sales in our company was disposition sales. We never had any acquisitions agents. It just didn't happen. So it was a very different world that we lived in. And as you can see, just within a short period of time, it changed very quickly, but we realized we didn't want to do it. And so, go visit these properties and do all that kind of thing. So we were thinking like efficiency wise, and Gary had been working in the corporate world for a really long time. Pretty much doing what he is today doing with implementing EOS and the sharper process and that kind of thing. And so we discovered like, hey, let's do this. Like, let's figure out how we can do this virtually. This was before, I'm not saying we were the first ones to do this, but this was before virtual wholesaling was a big thing. And so we, the first year we were together, we did about, I believe it was 78 properties that we did completely virtually without seeing a single one of them within Michigan and Ohio. And then it kind of segmented into like the whole company was starting to form. We had employees, in just about every asset that you could, or just about every department you could think of. And so then I moved completely into the marketing role. Gary moved into more of the integrator role. And we ended up doing about 300 to 400 deals a year that we were wholesaling within 5 states. And then we added on Kentucky on top of the other ones that we were doing. And so we were running a massive wholesaling company. And so that's where I kind of got my grounds for real estate, was inside of the marketing department. I ran that entire thing. And then long story short, companies split up and everybody went to do their own thing. There was 3 visionaries that were partners, and it just kind of didn't work out. No bad blood or anything. And I went with a guy to run a real estate mastermind, did that for 2 years. And then in late 2018, 2019, I was transitioning into doing my own thing. So I had kind of this thing where I was doing a side hustle. I was doing a lot more branding. I did over 250 brands for real estate businesses, and then also doing, content production, which was a lot of video stuff. And when we were running our marketing within the wholesaling company, even then I was doing a whole lot of marketing, content stuff. So, and you have played in that world for a long time, but you're doing a lot of video stuff and just curating the current buyer demographic that we had. And so that's where I kind of got the grounds of what we're doing. And that's merged us into what we do today, which is primarily social media management, content management for, we do a lot with active real estate investors, but our primary target is influencers. And so, and we've added on a couple other services that we've been moving in the direction of over the past, I would say probably 7 months, that we've really been going hard at, which is a lot more consulting and just helping people create strategies and game plans for this whole jungle of social media and content stuff. Because even active investors, they say, I don't have an education piece. Why do I need social media? And you absolutely do. You got to look at it a little differently. So that's kind of the nutshell. 10 years squashed into about 3 minutes, 4 minutes. So that's it.
Love it, man. Yeah. I mean, I think, there's so much we can touch on there. So one thing I am curious about, just because it's something we often hear about within our audience, obviously, like you said, it's a different world now on the dispo side, but are there any lessons that you learned there being involved in kind of the dispo marketing that you could share with our audience that are still applicable? Because I know we definitely have people on here who are looking to up their game on dispositions and, be able to be, a more effective wholesaler from that perspective.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, here's the thing. Nobody's got a crystal ball. I'm not going to sit here. I'm not an expert in the real estate investing industry whatsoever. Like I wouldn't go out and teach how to do real estate. I've done it myself, been a part of it for a very long time. But we focus primarily on the brand presence and messaging and stuff like that within real estate. But from a disposition standpoint, what I learned through that time, this was right around 2017, going into 2018. I remember we were sitting I was sitting in our office. I actually was sharing an office with Gary at the time. And we had, I believe it was at one point, we had about 10 people. 4 were in-house and the rest of them were virtual, that were doing acquisitions, but acquisitions then was placing bids. So we were placing thousands and thousands of bids every single week to get deals. And the thing was, you get a deal from HUD, go pre-look the property, and you got to put $500 deposit fee down on to hold the contract. Now you can legally wholesale where we're at because you have equitable interest. And then if we don't like the property, we can't find a buyer for 30 days, we throw it back to HUD and we just lose our $500 on that. Right. So that was kind of the process. And I remember one day, I don't remember the exact day or the month or anything. It was late 2017. I remember one of the acquisitions leaders coming up to our office and saying, something weird happened. We came in this morning and we opened up the HUD dashboard and there was 4 properties listed. And the day before, there was about 250 just with Indiana. And then they looked at the other states and it was kind of the same thing. And they're like, what's going on here? We don't know why it's dried up. And they freaked out a little bit. We were freaking out. Like, what do we do? How do we pivot here? And we're like, no, it's just a phase. It's good. It's going to come back. And it never did. And so it just kept going in that direction. And one of the things that I learned was just understanding the fact that, in the market that we're in today, obviously it's very hard to find deals. To find good deals is even harder. And at some point it is going to change to go back to where we were. It may not be the same. It may not ever be the exact same as it was. Like every market cycle comes back a little bit differently, right? We came back different from 2008. One of the biggest reasons why we were able to get deals with the snap of our finger from HUD was because we were doing this off the back of the 2008 recession when all these houses got foreclosed on. So HUD was selling foreclosures. That's what we specialized in, right? And so we may not ever have that happen again, but at some point, this market's going to shift where it's going to be a different market. It's going to be a buyer's market. People are going to be caught with their pants down because all these new wholesalers have not built up buyers lists and relationships with people that actually buy and hold properties. Or they want to buy the property, or they're going to flip it, whatever they're doing with it, turnkey it, you name it. They don't have a buyer's list. All they've been doing is hustling and grinding it out to get motivated sellers. All they've been doing is cold calling, text blasting. And with that, they haven't worked on establishing any kind of brand presence, any kind of authority online with, ranking and SEO and all that stuff. And that's where a lot of people are going to get caught, I think. And it's really scary to think about because they're going to be doing nothing but wholesaling and wholesaling and wholesaling and wholesaling. And then all of a sudden it turns into like, now there's like I remember like coming in every day, like checking out our spreadsheet of the deals that we had under contract. And at any given time, we had 40 to 50 deals under contract that we were trying to offload, that we were selling to people. That doesn't happen today. It just is not the case today. No, you're not going to walk into anybody's office and they're going to have a massive spreadsheet of deals lined up, that they're trying to offload. It's just a different world. But at some point, it will go back to that. It will go back to a scenario where it's a buyer's market and people are going to be wanting to, they see the market has shifted and buyers are going to get smart. They're going to say, I want to buy all these properties, and they'll start accumulating like they had been earlier in the 2000s. I mean, it's going to happen at some point. Now, again, I don't have a crystal ball. I don't know when it is. I'm not going to even try to make a guess at it. But the bottom line is the lessons that I learned from dispoing in that time period, and then the shift that happened in a very short, it was like a year turnaround when all of this shifted back to like acquisitions marketing. And the one thing that I learned is that this stuff evolves all the time, and it's a living, breathing organism. Real estate's never going to stay the same. Marketing will never stay the same. It will always be changing. And so shifting your marketing, not in a knee-jerk way, because if we did it right, which we didn't do it right, it's a lesson learned. Well, if we did it right, we would have continued to do dispositions marketing, but we didn't. We literally cut that out and we shifted completely to acquisitions marketing. And then we were having issues with buying at the wrong prices, not being able to offload them. And just, it was a big fiasco. And so the biggest lesson learned is just be willing to pivot, adjust. And I like to do it in 3 stages with marketing specifically. Is you implement, you analyze, and then you readjust and implement, and it just goes back. It's just a circle that you're going in. And so it's analysis, and then game planning, and then re-implementing what you're studying, what behaviors you're seeing, what the KPIs are telling you, and that's the adjustments you make. So long-winded answer, but it's very important to understand those things.
That was great. Yeah. I mean, I think, and I would also argue right now, like your online brand is still important. And like you said, you got to build that credibility, build that presence already, regardless of what the market's at or when that shift happens. I think still today that you can stand out and build credibility, build professionalism, through an online brand like that. And that'll give you an up in a competitive market no matter what. Can you maybe talk a little bit about the basics around how to build that online brand, how to build an online presence, how to think about branding as a real estate investor? I think people would really enjoy that too.
So branding, okay, because I was such a, we designed over 250 brands. And when I say brand, I say like logo, like you have DealMachine there, you have the coffee cup in the background with the logo of the pin drop with the house in it and everything. That's the colors, all that. That's essentially what people think branding is. And it boils down. Yes, that's it. I like to look at branding as a 3-part segment, and surprisingly, your logo, colors, and designs and elements and all that stuff has very little to do with it. So the 3 segments of branding it's 25% logos, colors, fonts, like web design, all that stuff. 25% of that. It's 25% the content you put out. So stuff that you're like actually getting your message across. And then it's 50% the sales and marketing. It's really like, and marketing is like going after people and that kind of thing. So here's the thing is that logos and colors is all important, but it's a lot more hinged on the messaging that you're putting out there in order to get across to people, create relevance. I was on a podcast yesterday with a guy named Andrew Holmes. He's actually in my backyard over in Chicago. And he asked me the same question. And I go, a lot of people they have a very misunderstood concept of what branding is. It's making sure that you're relevant to the audience you're going after. This is why content, and this is why content marketing is so huge, is my definition of content marketing is answering the questions that your target demographic has about your products, services, or your industry. And how you answer those questions is content marketing. You're doing that through articles. You're doing that through emails. You're doing that through video. You're doing that through, if it calls for it, podcasting, social media. you're answering those questions in that manner. And it's a slower race. Again, like content marketing is a marathon, advertising is a sprint. So you can advertise, which advertising to me is thrown in the bucket of hunting versus fishing marketing. My good buddy Trevor Mock gave a really good example one time on my podcast. And he says, when I look at content marketing, because he's the CEO of Carrot, Investor Carrot, the website hosting platform. Yeah. And he says, I look at it this way: content marketing, when you are building your web presence, it's like putting, fishing lines in a stream. And the stream is the traffic that's going through the internet. And obviously the fish are the leads, the people that are looking for answers to their questions, which in our case, it's going to be selling their house. And every piece of content that you put in is another line in the water that's bait for them, and they can catch that. Whereas hunting is you're continually trying to chase after that lead and hunt them down, which is cold calling, text blasting, direct. I think direct mail is a little bit of both, but direct mail, because you're interrupting them. It's also referred to as interruption marketing. Facebook advertising. It's just when you're catching that lead off guard and you're hoping that they're motivated. That's why they tell you, you got to text blast them, how X amount of times, give or take, like 10 times a week or whatever that looks like, because you're doing all these touches. You're hoping to catch them when they're motivated. You don't know that they're motivated. With content marketing, if they find your piece and convert, they are motivated because they're looking for an answer to their question. And if you have what you need in terms of content out there, you will answer their questions for them. They will automatically reach out and gain. They already have trust with you because you've answered the question that they're looking for, right? So if I'm up at 2:00 in the morning, I just inherited a house from my passed away uncle. I inherited the house. I'm up at 2:00 in the morning, not knowing what to do. I'm going to go look for an answer to my problem. I'm going to go look for a solution. And if I come across a video that literally explains what to do with an inherited house, and it's Matt sells house, or Matt buys houses, and it's a video that he put out to answer my question, guess who I'm calling first thing in the morning? Right. Or at least sending a email to, or going to the contact page to get in touch with. Mm-hmm. So that's why it's important, but it's a longer play. And goes back, I'm circling this all the way back around to your question, which is developing online brand presence. That's the way to do it. Text blasting, cold calling, RVMs, that's not the way to do it. Think of like when you get spammed by a toll-free caller. They're not saying, hey, this is Josh with Culler Media. I want to interrupt your night and sell you something, right? They're not saying that. They're offering you, they're going to try to like catch you when your guard's down or whatever, and try to sell you into something and not really mention a brand. Like, think of it that way. When you're text blasting somebody, you're not telling them, hey, this is Matt with DealMachine. I'm interrupting your night. Please get in contact with me because I want to buy your house. Like, you're not saying that. You're asking a question. That's the tactics that you're doing. So all that to say, there's different ways to chop this up. And I'm not saying not to do text blasting, cold calling, RVMs. That stuff works. It's having a perfect medium of both of those is the best formula. The most successful people that we see, you and I are part of Collective Genius, and those are the top real estate investors in the world. And the most successful people in those rooms are doing both of these very, very strategically. So
yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's what, like I said, my background's content marketing as well. We would talk all the time about inbound plus outbound and saying, hey, outbound being that paid strategy, that, the hunting, like you're talking about, the shorter feedback loop of getting out there and trying to get in front of people. And then inbound being, hey, you want to, like you said, put out great content. So that way, when they're high intent, when they have a very specific search, that you're the one they find, you're the expert that they find. And I think they complement each other perfectly. Like, we actually put out recent webinars and videos with Carrot where we're talking about them and saying, hey, have this great online presence, put out great content, and then combine that with DealMachine of going outbound and being able to, if someone does get a postcard from you using DealMachine, first thing they're going to do is look up more info about you. And, if you have a great online brand, a great online presence, you're going to be immediately seen as this professional expert for them, versus, if you have nothing out there, then, you're not credible. So,
yeah. And capping off what you said. So I actually, I don't know why I didn't say that. So when I was explaining what the brand is, the segments, I actually messed it up I flip-flopped them. So it's 25% logos, colors, designs. Mm-hmm. It's 25% marketing and sales, which marketing I would consider the hunting marketing, where you're text blasting, cold calling, and that kind of thing. It's basically when you're trying to convert the person is 25%. 50% of it is customer experience. That's where content marketing comes into play. Because if I am, let's just take, for instance, you're a good example with DealMachine. If I am signed up for your products and I don't know how to use them, am I going to get any value out of them?
Right.
I'm definitely not going to, because I don't know how to use it. But if you're making a concerted effort to put content out there, give me a good customer experience, I'm going to use DealMachine to the furthest extent it can. And that means I'm going to get more value out of it. I directly relate my success to your platform. And then obviously I become an evangelist. I go tell other people about it, that kind of thing. So that's why understanding what a brand is highly important. With DealMachine, you guys have done a really good job of making sure that your customer experience is in alignment with what you're trying to strive for, which is like providing the best service for these real estate investors that are subscribed to the platform. And I like logo, colors, designs, all of it is in alignment with DealMachine, but it's obviously not like, you're not marketing that. You're marketing the messaging, the problems that you could solve, the solutions. So
for sure. Yeah. And we have a big concentrated effort on investing in our, customer success and
absolutely,
our content and all of that stuff. So it all plays.
That's 50% of a brand. It's the biggest piece that people miss out on. And when it's no different when you're going towards a motivated seller to market to them, it's just no different. You got to take care of these people and truly care about answering the questions that they have and solving the problem for them. Those are the people that are the most successful in our industry, do that beautifully.
Yeah. And I know, I mean, most of the people you're working with, they are on that level. They're needing to get to, they've got some baseline stuff out there. They're a successful investor, then they need to get to that next level using marketing. But definitely we'll have a good amount of people on here that are newbies as well, maybe don't have an online presence at all. For them, can you maybe talk through the most basic playbook of like how to get started? What's the lowest hanging fruit? How do they start to build that credibility and start to, put the fishing poles out there?
Yeah. So again, I answered this question yesterday, and I wish I could just like record, like obviously it was recorded, but then it's just like, hey, play it back here. Cause it was like, it was a beautiful one. It's a really good question, because here's the thing, like, it's not going to be sugar coated in any way. If you're a newbie investor, so that's what you're asking for, right? Like you want somebody that's not really jumped into this world yet. So if you're in that boat, you do not have credibility or authority yet. So putting out content might not be the best thing for you to do. Now, I'll say that in this way. If you know your industry well enough, then you should be able to put content out that answers questions still. You can still make it basic, and the approach is going to be different. Somebody that's an experienced investor, somebody like, take for instance, we're in CG, somebody like that's been well established, like an Eric Brewer or Mark Delatorre, those guys that have been in this industry for a long time that we've actually done content for. They are doing a lot of case studies. They're talking about how they've actually helped sellers in the past. We're doing walkthroughs of properties that they have under contract, and they have credibility and authority already. Now we're just building upon that with the content we're putting out. So for somebody that's getting started, you don't have the ability to do that yet. Maybe you've done 1 or 2 deals. Hey, great. Do a case study on that. Talk about the problem that the seller ran into, talk about how you solved it for them, but then also make sure you're making them the hero of the story, not you. It's like, hey, we helped this person get to destination X, Y, and Z. If you're just starting off though, the best thing that you can do is obviously like, I'm not a wholesale guru or coach or anything, but what most of these guys will tell you is go do driving for dollars, go do text blasts and cold calls and RVMs. And it's probably the best route to go if you're just getting started. Let's just say specific with marketing, and you could probably preach on that a little bit more than I can. But if we're talking about content at the start of it, get your branding done, your logos and colors and all that stuff, but start to fill and populate your websites and everything that you're putting out with just answering questions. If you approach it that way, you're doing yourself a really good favor. And it's again, this is a marathon. A lot of people want the quick snapping finger. Like, this is why advertising and content marketing, like you said, inbound and outbound, is important to do both, not just one or the other. A lot of people just do outbound marketing, and that's all they do. All they're doing is texting, cold calling, and like all that stuff. And they're not focused on web presence whatsoever. That's the wrong move, because ultimately, if you build up enough credibility on your sites with SEO and the content you're putting out, it's going to be easy for you to attract sellers, and the conversion rates will go higher because you're building trust and authority with them through the content you have on your site. Mm-hmm. So if you're beginning, just answer questions. So again, simple, and I can share this with you and your audience, Matt, if you want me to. I put together a list of 52 topics that active real estate investors can do content on. It's pretty simple. Like, a lot of people like to complicate it. So think about what questions your motivated sellers are asking you. One of the biggest questions in search results, if you're going to Google and having that hard data, is what is the difference between a real estate investor / wholesaler versus a realtor? People do not know the answer to that question. Motivated sellers know what a realtor is. Everybody knows what a realtor is. That's the traditional way to sell your house. But they don't know what for sale by owner is. They don't know what selling to a wholesaler is. And the second leading question that I always say is they don't even know what a real estate investor is. So a lot of people think, your typical person thinks a real estate investor is a suit on Wall Street that manipulates people, or they're a slumlord and stuff like that. And so it's your job to put, say, a video out that debunks that and says, hey, my name's Matt. I'm a real estate investor. And here's what that means. That means I can buy your house at as is. You don't have to pay closing costs, blah, 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 the whole shebang there. But that's typically what I would do. If you're starting off, just answer those questions as thoroughly as you can, but keep it simple so that the person on the other end watching that video understands that, and then give them a call to action. Say, if you have any other questions, please feel free to give me a call. That's how I would start off.
Yeah. I mean, we would often talk about, at first you don't have that credibility, like you said, so you might have to pay for that credibility. And that would be the ads, that would be the outbound tactics, that would be, putting the sweat equity behind, going out there and hunting. And then over time, as you do that, then you can build up that credibility and generate inbound leads, where you're becoming a more known presence. And you can, if you put out the correct content like that, you can start to build that web. So that way, when they do start searching for you, you're more easily found. And it's kind of an inverse relationship over time of, building up that inbound.
The inverse relationship, that phrase right there is perfect to explain everything that I just said. So,
yeah, I mean, and I would be curious. So, this has been awesome so far. Like, really appreciate your time. Don't want to run too far over on. He says, this has been great. I would love to know the more sophisticated investor, because we definitely have those listening as well. Because you consult for them, because they can hire you on the content marketing side because you're experienced there. What are some of the top things that you've seen that they maybe aren't considering, maybe are lessons learned that you have that are some major pivots that they need to make possibly? Just kind of, obviously it's, different each situation, but would love to hear your thoughts on that end.
Yeah. So that's a really good question. What I have found, and this is through like everything that we've done, the experience that we have, all the background and the people that we work with that I'm seeing are successful in their market, is they're going just really deep into their market. So it's not like some of my mentors will say, like, it's not like the real estate market is not a national market, it's a local market. And it totally is. And again, I had this conversation yesterday with someone, and the analogy I used is actually a perfect example. So I'm not going to name his name, but he's in CG, a buddy of mine. He's from Pittsburgh. And he wanted to do TV ads. A lot of people are becoming super successful with acquiring leads through TV ads because it's a relevant way to market to the audience, especially the older demographic. So he signs up for this program to do TV ads. He has a guy from Phoenix. So he's in Pittsburgh. He has a guy from Phoenix do basically the acting on the ad. So he gives a message, says, go to, buy Pittsburgh or whatever.com and sell your house to me. So he does that. He runs the ad, and it's just a smashing failure. It does not produce the results at all. And he asked me, like, what should I do different? He's like, here's the ad. And this was actually at a CG event where we're having this conversation. He showed me the ad. And he's like, what do you think of this? I'm like, dude, you're from Pittsburgh, right? And I'm like, yeah. And you could totally tell, like, he's definitely a Pittsburgh. When I think of Pittsburgh, he is the epitome of a human being from Pittsburgh that I would think of. And this is very straightforward, direct, kind of like never smiles type of thing, and just tough looking dude. And I said, what you need to do is you need to be on the ad and deliver the message. Because here's the thing, somebody from Pittsburgh knows if you are not from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
It's the same thing from somebody from Chicago. If you like, if somebody from Chicago like is like they're from there and they meet somebody else, say at a bar in Wrigleyville or whatever, like they know if they're from there or not. It's the same thing from a New Yorker or a Boston or even down south. I've got a buddy of mine with clients in Birmingham, Alabama. Like there's very specific draws and dialects that they have when they speak versus somebody that's in North Carolina or even Texas. So the more local you can get, the more relevancy that you can create with your motivated sellers, the higher percentage you're going to have with your conversion rates. And so this guy tried it out. He got on the TV ads, did it himself, and then his conversion rates or his lead intake and conversion rates started going through the roof. Just that simple, same messaging, same things he was saying on the TV ad. And that's just the way it worked. It's a night and day difference because he's from Pittsburgh. He is speaking the language there. Like there's just certain words that we use like in Chicago that are totally different from somebody that's in Indianapolis, that's 2 hours south of us, right? So it's just a different dynamic.
Someone's putting ketchup on their hot dog, they're not going to call you back, right?
That's exactly right. Exactly right. So, and that's again, like just the more relevance you can. Like if I'm buying houses in Chicago, I'm getting on a TV ad with if this was last year, it would have been a Chris Bryant jersey, but like,
right.
You know, it's Justin Fields. I would have a Justin Fields jersey on because everybody in Chicago loves him right now, even though the Bears are not doing too well. But everybody loves him. Like he's doing okay on the team, right? It's better than a Jay Cutler jersey like years ago. Like if you wore a Jay Cutler jersey on a Facebook ad trying to buy somebody's houses, you would have had so many hate comments and nobody would ever buy but only somebody from Chicago would know that. Right. So that's the difference is the more relevant you become with somebody, the more trust you build with them. And it's just a game changer. So relevancy is super important. And for the more advanced, experienced investors, this is what they're doing. This is the direction they're going in. They're pulling it way in, and not just the city of Chicago is a market. It's Oak Lawn. It's Schaumburg, it's Northwest Indiana. Like the Chicagoland is split into multiple different local markets, and that's how they're marketing. So make it local.
Yeah. And people do business with people they like, know, and trust, and they can tell if you're not authentic and not local. And yeah, that's a great message, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, hey, this has been fantastic. Like, I really appreciate you coming on. Appreciate your time, Josh. Can you tell people, I know one would love to have that leave behind that you talked about, the 52 questions to answer.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we'll include a link to that if you can send me that over. And then where else can people, get in touch with you, follow up what you're up to? Would love to help you build relationships with people in our community as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you could go follow me on social media. Just look for me on any platform. YouTube is where I'm going hard at as well. And then just look up my name, Josh Culler. And then the REI Marketing Weekly podcast. We've taken a break on it for season 1, and then we're going to go into season 2 in January. We're going to do 2 episodes a week. So we're going to be going really hard at that. But there's still a massive library of a lot of really good content in there. So the REI Marketing Weekly podcast is what you'll be looking at. And then I did actually come out with this book a few months ago, the REI Marketing book. It is just jam-packed full of tactics, strategies, techniques, 200 pages of pure value that's in here on how some of the top real estate investors in the world run their marketing specifically. So go pick that up. So you can go to reimarketingbook.com. We're talking about marketing. So it's a free plus shipping offer. You're going to be dropping into my funnel, and I'm going to be remarketing to you. So you might see my mug everywhere if you buy the book. Yeah. That doesn't mean that this doesn't have value. It's got a lot of value in it, but that's just a little subtle hint there, but it's also teaching you something about marketing. So
yeah, I was going to say, take notes on what you're
again,
doing.
Relevancy, like somebody that buys this book is interested in real estate investing. That means they're qualified to work with me or buy one of my services. So it's relevance.
Love it. Yeah. Well, Josh, again, really appreciate the time. Appreciate the conversation. And thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Matt.
Yeah. To everyone watching, this is Matt Camp with DealMachine, and happy deal finding.